All right, let's take a look at the next 11 questions on Math Practice 16. And when you are working on these problems, most of them, not all, but most of them are exactly the same each time. Just different numbers. They shouldn't look a whole lot different. So your ability to answer them should be just becoming a matter of familiarity rather than practice, and not really having to worry about, am I doing it right or am I doing it wrong? Okay, and I'm also cheating on another computer that's sitting beside me here that already has all the answers written out for me so that I don't by chance give you guys an incorrect answer. All right, so let's start with number 13. The most important part on this one is the zero. Anytime that you have some number, variable, or in this case, group with the parentheses, raised to the zero power, that is always equal to 1. So what's here inside the parentheses doesn't matter because everything's being raised to the zero power, which makes this answer 1. Number 14. This is usually dealing something with finding answers dealing with square roots. And in this case, it asks you for 2 consecutive numbers. Now, consecutive numbers are numbers that follow one another when you are counting, right? So if I'm counting out loud, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, those are all consecutive numbers because they followed in order on the number line. So 2 consecutive numbers would be like 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, and so on. So when we want to think about, well, where does the square root of 40 land? That means not the numbers near 40, but the square root of 40. Well, 40 falls between the square root of 36, which is equal to 6, and the square root of 49, which is equal to 7. So in this case, we would say the answer to this is 6 and 7. Okay? 6 and 7 consecutive numbers. Which is larger? All right, remember when you are dealing with exponential notation, in this case, you are asking yourself, which is larger? Now, this this 4 is telling you how many places you are moving the decimal. And since it's a positive exponent, it's telling you that it's going to go to the right. So 0.5 times 10 to the fourth, that's 0.5. And then we're going to move the decimal 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to fill all those blank spots in with zeros. 4.8 times 10 to the third, 4.8. Now we're going to move this one 3 places. So it's 1, 2, 3. Again, we put zeros in. So which is a bit larger, 5,000 or 4,800? And in this case, it's the first one. So it'd be 0.5 times 10 to the fourth. Some people answered this with the first one. But in our case, we can't do 10 to the fourth, right? So if you went 10 and then there's a caret sign above the 6, and then you said 4, right? So then you put 0.5 times 10 caret 4, that'd be fine too. And I would even understand if you put a 10 in and then maybe a space and then a 4 afterwards. You just need to indicate that you actually understand which is the right answer. Number 16, we're just combining like terms here, or in this case, multiplying. And I'll remember when we're multiplying and the base is the same, so they're all A's, we add the exponents, right? So on this second A, this is implied to be a 1. So we have a to the third, a to the first, a to the second, a to the 0. So if we add those exponents, 3 plus 1 plus 2 plus 0, that gives me a total of 6. So that means I'm going to have a to the 6th power. And 5 is the only coefficient out front, so this has to be 5a to the 6th. Also, you could think of a to the 0. Remember, anything raised to the 0 power is 1. So we just be multiplying by 1, so it really just becomes 3 plus 1 plus 2. So both ways are a good way to think about that one. All right, so in number 17, it's dealing most of the time with a formula or solving something. So in this case, they tell you that the L is a 2 and the W is 4.8. So we're just going to replace L and W with 2 and 4.8. So this becomes 2 times 2 plus 4.8, which becomes 2 times 6.8. And then if you multiply those two things together, you should come up with 13.6. Sorry about that. In number 18, distribute. Remember the distributive property? So that means we are going to take this number that's on the outside of the parentheses and we're going to multiply it times each of the terms inside of the parentheses. And remember, terms are separated by plus signs or minus signs. So y is a term and 10 is a term. So we're going to take a negative 3y and multiply it times y. That gives us a negative 3y squared. And then a negative 3y times 10 gives me a negative 30 y. And then you could say plus a negative 30y or you can say minus 30y. So you could have also have said a negative 3y plus a negative 30y. Both ways are fine. It's all good. Factor. Factor is when you are pulling something common out of both terms. Remember, term plus sign. So 1/8 times 6 is one term, 1/8 times 10 is the other term. And so we're going to pull what's common to both, and that's the 1/8. So this is going to be equal to 1/8. Then we put in parentheses what's left over. So what's left after we pull out the 1/8 outside, right? So it was multiplying a 6. So we're going to have a 6, the plus sign, and then we're going to pull out this 1/8, and what's left, a 10. And that's it. Don't add these two things together. Don't do the multiplication. Some people were giving me an answer of 2, and that's a true statement if I asked you to completely simplify it. But you weren't asked to simplify it. You were just asked to factor it and pulling that number out and making it look like a distributive property, which this does, is what I'm looking for on this. So don't simplify, just factor. All right, number 20, you are going to solve, right? So here we have multiplication, and we can get rid of multiplication by division. We can undo that, so we're going to divide both sides by 4. And so what that does is that gives me x minus 1 is equal to, and 36 divided by 4 is 9. Then if we add 1 to both sides, the 9 plus 1 gives me 10. So x is equal to 10. X-intercept, when we define the x-intercept, y is equal to 0. So if we set y equal to 0, we just have to solve for x. So that's 3x plus 12. So I would subtract 12 from both sides. So 3x plus 12 is equal to 0. I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides. And so that tells me that 3x is equal to a negative 12. Whoops, I wrote a 10, don't know why. And then we divide both sides by 3. X is equal to a negative 4. Okay, now this last one is dealing with graphs, charts, whatever they might be. In this case, you are dealing with a stem and leaf plot. This is your stem and leaf plot. And then we're taking that information and putting it over here into this chart. And we could use this chart then to make a circle graph. But since it's not that easy to draw pieces of pie into a circle when we are dealing with doing stuff on the computer, what we're going to do is we're just going to take a look at filling out this chart. All right, so this number here means how many numbers fall into the A category, and anything in the 90s is an A, so that's everything up here. So that's easy, there's just 4. And then the numbers in the 80s, well, in this case we have 7. And in the 70s we have 9. In the 60s we have 3. And then the 50s or the Fs we have 2. Now how do we do percents? Well, percent is the part that we have out of the whole. Well, the whole is all of the scores, right? And how many scores do we have here? Well, let's see. 4 plus 7 is 11, plus 9 is 20, plus 3 is 23, plus 2 is 25. So then to get the percent for right here, we would divide 4 by 16, or by 25, and you would get 16. I could be wrong on that, but I don't think so. I'm going to double check my math. I'm pulling up a calculator on my other computer. So I said 4 divided by 25 is 0.16, and then we multiply that by 100 to get the percent. Okay, so that gives us the percent, and then for this one, 7 divided by 25 for the B's, that is 28. 9 divided by 25, that is 36. 3 divided by 25 is 12, and 2 divided by 25 is 8. Now, if we've done our math right, which we have, when you take a look and you add all of these numbers together, the percent column, right, this will equal 100. So this equals 25 when we add them all together. This equals 100. And then the degrees, well, degrees are what you measure when you're measuring angles. And there are 360 degrees in a circle. So if we do our math right, then this column should add up to 360. Okay? So the way you find these is you take this, in this case, the A's, you take 0.16 times 360. In B's, we take 0.28 times 360. In the C's, we take 0.36 times 360, and then 0.12 times 360, and then 0.08 times 360. And these come out to be, if we do our math correctly, all right, and I have some decimals in here. I didn't round. 57, well, I didn't round a ton. 57.6, 100.8, 129.6, 43.2, and 28.8. Okay? So that is the next 10 problems. So we've looked at the 1 through 12 the other day. Now there's 13 through 22, and I will create another video for the problems that follow on the backside. And we'll talk about how to find some of these other kinds of questions. And there's some questions that I just give you credit for, like there's a couple of 32s that I just give you credit for. I don't even worry about it because some of those questions get a little bit deeper than what we really need to deal with. But you can always try to work on them, and then I'll just give you credit even if they're wrong. So hope you have a good morning.